My name is Rebecca Matthews. I am coordinator to Team 1 out on the road. We're in New Orleans, Louisiana right now. I was asked just to share a quick little message with you guys just to encourage you this Saturday. And one thing that I want to talk about is persistence. I have kind of two passages that I'm going to read from. Both are going to be in Mark. So we're going to be in Mark 8, verse 22. So this is the healing of a blind man in Bethsaida. They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, "Don't go into the village." So it's just 4 verses, but I think you can kind of pull it apart and see a lot of different things. And so it starts out, and so first, the man was brought to him, right? Obviously. Some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him, right? Because again, if only they could be touched, they knew that such power was in him, that if only Jesus touched him, he would be healed, right? Because that's how he's done it before. People have seen it, they've heard of it, and so there's an excitement there. There's the reality of kind of what they heard, so they're expecting that, they're waiting for it. But Jesus kind of decides to do something a little differently. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" So kind of different than what he's heard. He's probably, the blind man, I don't know what's going through his head, but he's probably heard, this guy, he heals, he comes and people, they get set free, demons are cast out, blind men are seen, all he has to do is they say see, and so he's saying, okay, like that's probably what's going to happen. But God doesn't always work in the same way as what we've seen before, and even if in our own personal lives, if God's talked to us a certain way, if he's healed us a certain way, he's not always going to do it the same way. God's, to us, he's a little unpredictable, but, to him, he knows what he wants and he knows his plans. So when he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes, and his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. I feel like a lot of times when say we're in this man's situation, a lot of times in our life, when God is silent, we think he's not there. And one thing that I love about this verse, about these verses, the passage, is that Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. So I don't know how big it is, I don't know how long it took for him to get there, but it doesn't say that he said a word once to him. It doesn't say that Jesus said, "Oh, my son, come, I'm going to heal you." There was no verbal promise. There was nothing of God saying, let me just comfort you in this. Let me peace. It's going to happen all in my time. We know that all in God's times, all in God's time is he going to bring healing. His plans are going to come to fruition. We know that. His word does not return void, but he doesn't say anything the whole entire time. So a lot of times as we're walking, if this is me and I'm going through my life and I cry out to God and I say, "God, I need this healing. God, I need you to support me financially. God, I need this," and he is quiet, we think that means that God's not there. And we have a tendency to kind of pray about it and then give up. Pray about it once, we don't persist and we don't pray through that. And so Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." It's interesting that he didn't just say yes, because all God asked is, "Do you see anything?" A simple yes would have sufficed, because technically he did. He saw people. They looked like trees, but they're walking around. To a lot of us, when we get a partial healing, when we get what we kind of partially need, we stick it and we go, "Okay, cool, like that's great." We stick with that, and that's all we need. But God didn't come to half heal. God didn't come to take care of you partially. When God promises things, when he promises that he's going to be there for us, that he's going to provide for us, he means fully. He doesn't mean just so we barely get by. He goes, I'm going to take care of everything. I'm going to take care of your finances. I'm going to take care of your emotional burdens. And just because it doesn't happen as quickly or doesn't happen the way we want it doesn't mean that he's not moving. He looked up and said, I see people. They look like trees walking around. So once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus speaks to him twice. Right after he says it, Jesus sent him home saying, don't go into the village. That's all. Jesus took him by the hand, let him out very quietly. While he's about to spit on his eyes, he doesn't even warn him. He doesn't say, hey, just so you know, be prepared. You're going to get this. And what's interesting is he used spitting on someone's eyes. Spitting on someone is shameful. Even nowadays, if someone spits on you, that's an insult. That's an insult to you. It's an insult to your family. And Jesus chose to use something that we see as shameful to heal this man. And so he spit on his eyes and he rubbed his hands. And I have no idea what it's like, but so many times in our walk we feel like, man, like I am down. I'm down. I'm tired. You know, I want to give up. I'm going through this trial. God, I don't hear you. You must not be there. And in Mark 7, verse 24, this is the faith of a Syrophoenician woman. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an evil spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. This is interesting. In verse 27, Jesus said, first, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs. So Jesus basically insulted her and said, you know, I'm here for the kids. You know, let the Jews come, let them get healing, let them receive it first, and then and then we'll see. And he says, it's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to their dogs. And then she says, yes, Lord, she replied, but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. She knew who she was. She knew that she was a Syrian Phoenician. She knew that she wasn't Greek. She knew that she wasn't part of David's family. She knew that she wasn't this. She knew who she was. She was an outcast to so many things. But she didn't let that stop her. Because even though what was labeled on her, even though whatever she's going through, even though her daughter has a demon in her, that's probably shameful. Stay away, don't go there. She's a businesswoman. People probably don't want to do business with her because of her daughter. But she didn't let that stop her. So she said, oh, yes, I know. Even the dogs under the table receive the crumbs. So even if it was just a crumb, she knew that it was enough. Even if it was just a tiny thing, she knew it. She just touched it. He just could say it. She knew that Jesus had the power and authority to heal her daughter. And for such faith, and it says, then he told her, for such reply you may go, the demon has left your daughter. She went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. When the blind man was being let out, he didn't say, okay, I'm uncomfortable, I gotta stop. He trusted him. And he knew that this guy is so powerful, this guy has so much authority, that if he can do it to them, he can do it to me. And even though he spit on me, even though he hasn't talked to me, even though I'm scared and I'm uncomfortable, I'm willing to trust him. And he persists through it. In Jeremiah 29:11-12, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. So if you're struggling financially, if you're full of anxieties and depression, just the weight of the world is bearing down on you and you haven't heard God, I just want to encourage you, and it doesn't mean he's not there. Just because he moved in your friend's life by speaking to them or by blessing them doesn't mean that he's not going to move in your life. Someone else's blessing, someone else's success, that's not your failure. So you can't look around and say, well, if God did it that way, he has to do it this way in my life. He's going to redeem you. He's going to bring freedom in your life. And I believe he wants to. And he knows the plans he has for you. But he's not going to. He might not tell you all the time. So even though he won't tell you, you can still be faithful and you can still serve and trust him because he's a good God. And he wants the best for us. So So happy you guys today. Thanks so much for watching. God bless. Have a good day.